Howdy, folks. Grok the DuckFarmer here, and I'm playing Factory in the Sky 4 on the FTOG server. And I've been having a blast building these various things. Everything has that very Japanesey vibe here, and I didn't plan for it to do that, but the it's definitely doing that here in the Void World for me. Other than the boat, but they're visitors, so they don't really count. However, one of the things that I did want to build is an onsen. It's a Japanese hot water or hot spring resort that people will go to soak in the natural hot springs, which is different from Sento, which is just a heated bath that people can visit, which could be in a city or stuff like that. But the onsens tend to be wherever you have natural hot springs located. And I wanted to build one of those because yay. And while I was thinking about this, it occurred to me that in anime and manga, which I do enjoy, there's an obligatory onsen session, a series or a moment in there where the people have to go to an onsen. It's just obligatory. It's one of those things, it's just gotta happen. And I was laughing about that because the next D&D session or main campaign is going to have a lot of fantasy anime tropes in it. And I'm going to hand draw a map that's going to have a lot of items the people can explore. And one of the things on that map will be labeled obligatory onsen because it's got to happen. So anyway, I went ahead and did this, set up a little island over here, and I found a build online, and I'll share you the link in the description below. I followed it pretty closely. However, I did change it to cherry and mangrove because, hello, that's what we've got going on here. I did keep the spruce trapdoors on the bottom. I initially tried stuff like the bamboo, the stripped bamboo, because I was thinking the tatami mats that you often see in Japan and the buildings and on the floor, and I thought it would look good, and it really doesn't. So I said, okay, I'll stick with the trapdoors, but everything cherry and mangrove in here because I just really like those colors. And I started building this, and I started recording, and it was just so much poo. And so I said, okay, let me finish this here, because the main thing I was interested in is building and designing the hot springs back here. So I just went ahead and started watching his second piece, where he's describing the hot springs back here. I really like the border that he's got, and again, I'm going to use the stripped mangrove because I like those logs, but it'll be using the spruce trapdoors as kind of a wall to protect prying eyes from seeing people back here going into the hot pools. So so that's what I want to do, but his thing is really busy, and I like it. I'm just not going to build it. I'm going to build a lot of more freehandy sort of stuff. Now, to do that, I'm going to have to dig down, and to do that, I'm going to have to actually finish this bottom here. So that's what I've got, a bunch of stone on me, and I just really enjoy building floating islands because I can practically do it in my sleep. Sometimes I fall asleep while building these islands, but just because it's one of those things that I do enjoy doing, and since I've got a floating void world, I might as well go ahead and do more floating islands. So anyway, while I'm doing this, because I was saying I can do this and not really have to think about it. Let's break those two. Then it frees me up to discuss other stuff. In this case, the topic du jour is anime and manga, and like I said, I really enjoy them. There's a really a huge amount of bad anime and bad manga. But that's okay because it follows Sturgeon's law, who was a science fiction writer, and he said 90% of science fiction is crud, But then again, 90% of anything is crud. And it's very true. I recognize that is very, very true. So much of what I enjoy is finding those rare nuggets of really good stuff out of the 10% that is left when you kind of sift out the 90% of the crud that's out there. And talking about stuff that's worthwhile and things that if you were to share with your sainted grandma, she wouldn't pass out or have a heart attack from the disgusting stuff that you're watching, and you should really be sad about all the stuff that you're watching. But okay, I'll stop haranguing you about that. So things that are worth it. If we talk movies, anime movies, I would start with anything pretty much by Studio Ghibli is almost all fantastic. Something that you can watch with a family and really enjoy it. And so that heartily endorse Studio Ghibli. Go for that. And then going alphabetical, some movies that I've seen recently that I have really enjoyed. I really like A Silent Voice. It's about a kid who's a real brat who torments a another fellow student in the class who happens to be deaf, and the results of doing that. And one of the things that I really loved about this series, or that's not a series, but this movie, is because it has one of the best representations of loneliness visually done. And I when I saw that at the end, I went, "Oh wow, that's really good." It just was a good thing. I enjoyed that. So that I heartily recommend that. Your grandma might go, "What's this going on here?" Because it's Japanese culture, but it's pretty understandable. And I prefer subtitled stuff over anything that's dealing with dubbed, just because I want to hear the voice actors. I want to hear what they're saying. I want to know their inflections and emotions and all that. And so I prefer hearing the dubbed, and I can, or the subtitled, so I can hear the people's voices initially, as opposed to having to have everything in English. I don't really like it when things get translated into English too much. It loses something most of the time. Another movie, A Whisker Away, something I watched, has kind of a Studio Ghibli feel to it. Girl slowly is transforming into a cat. Um, fun movie, and I recommend that very much as well. And then for people who like music and artificial worlds, there's Belle. It's a retelling of the Beauty and the Beast story in a virtual reality world. And I've watched this one. It's been out for several years, but I've watched it enough that I don't even look at it. I know what the people are talking about, and I just mostly just listen for it in the background because I like the music. So that those are three good movies, and anything from Studio Ghibli. There you go. As far as TV shows, I'm I really can't have the patience to watch stuff that's really long. So, One Piece and stuff that has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. Nope, I don't have the time for that. So I won't want those. Most of the time, something that has 12 up to maybe 24 episodes. That's kind of the amount of attention span I can devote to something like that. And again, going alphabetically through these, Angel Beats has a fantastic intro, and it would be a harder one to watch with your grandma with, because in a nutshell, these kids are in kind of a purgatory that looks like high school, and trying to figure out why they're there, what needs to be done, and lots of shooting and fighting and dying and stuff like that because they're dead. They can, it doesn't really matter if they die because, again, dead. But great intro, really good story. Really, really good. Highly recommend it. Uh, Another one that's very lighthearted and is loads of fun to watch. Cells at Work. It's a story of a red and white blood cells and their interactions along with 37 trillion other cells in a body. Fun infotainment because there's a lot of explanation as to how cells work, how the cells are defending against inborn pathogens and other things like that. So it's a fun series. Definitely something that you could watch with your grandma, and she would just laugh because there's very silly stuff going on there and very cute platelets. So if you've seen it, you know what I mean. Another one that is a little bit more serious on a kind of a romantic side. It's called Kimi ni Todoke. The English version of that is From Me to You. And it's about a girl who's really nice but shy, and she looks a lot like the really creepy lady from uh the Ring, where the long black hair coming out of the well, and everybody's afraid of her. But she's just very nice and very shy, and it's her kind of coming out of her shell with some other fellow students. Fun. I think there's like 2 seasons of it, and actually they did a live action movie that was pretty good. If you want to kind of condense the story down into an hour and a half, but that's a fun one. It's more of a snapshot kind of when I watched it into Japanese culture as to how assuming these are based off of real type people and their reactions, the way Japan kind of doesn't want to stand out. People want to be not noticed for standing out too much, unless you stand out for good reason. Anyway, enough yakking about that. If you like fighting shows, then I would strongly suggest Solo Leveling. Not one that you'd probably watch with your grandma because lots of blood as monsters are being chopped into bits, and some people too if they're not being successful against the monsters. Really good story. It's a rare example of something that's anime or manga that's not Japanese. It's actually Korean, and the manga, 200 some chapters. I think it says actually 200 chapters. Really well done, easy to read because it's long strips and lots of action scenes. But from a story point of view, really well written. You've got somebody who there are these gates that keep appearing around the world, and this is focusing in on Korea because again, written in Korea. And hunters are people that have been blessed with additional abilities, additional strength, and they're all rated. And the guy who is the hero of the story is the weakest of all the hunters. He's a rank E and gets wounded all the time because he's just not all that strong. But he gets better, and he gets the ability to get better, which makes it for an interesting story to me, as opposed to the stories where the people start off being phenomenally strong. There's one where I watched the first episode, and he's the reincarnated demon lord, and he's so powerful that he defeats an opponent with the sound of his heart beating. And I'm just going, okay, yeah, you're overpowered. I don't care. Go, you're not interesting. But watching with Solo Leveling, as he struggles really hard, and it's his grit and determination that actually makes him better. And I was going, I like that. As a person of my upbringing in the West, I really enjoy seeing people struggle and get better. So that's one that I definitely like. 2 seasons out of that, and probably will need at least another 2, possibly 5 total to tell the story. And it's a complete story, which I am a big fan of. All right. Speaking of a story that's not been finished, a Spy Family is hilarious. The conceit of it is kind of 1960s sort of Germany, a guy who is a spy trying to gain information needs to have a family to better blend in. So he finds a lady and convinces her to um, marry him. It's for their both of their benefits. What he doesn't realize is, well, she doesn't know that he's a spy, and he doesn't realize that she's a skilled assassin. So hijinks ensue. Also, to make them be better and blend in better, they adopt a girl, which they don't realize she's telepathic. And so she knows that they're both spies and assassins, and thinks that's really cool, but she can't really tell anybody because, that would be sharing secrets. Fun, fun series. I haven't watched the all of the second season. I got distracted and haven't picked it up yet, but that's one that you could watch with your grandma, and would not feel too embarrassed by doing so. Let's see. Oh, and then the last one is another guilty pleasure of mine that I really enjoy. It's called Tonakawa, which the the manga version of it, the English name is Fly Me to the Moon, but the anime is Over the Moon for You. And the only reason I could guess for the difference is because of the Frank Sinatra song, which I'm kind of going, but this isn't a song, it's an anime manga, so why should there be a problem with that? I don't know. Anyway, you've got this guy who is saved from being crushed by a bus by this girl that he sees and thinks is absolutely delightful, and she disappears. Fast forward a couple years, he turns 18, she shows up on the doorstep and says, okay, I'm ready to marry you now, because that's what he asked, because now he's of age. And so within the first 15 minutes of the show, the protagonist is now married. And it's super super cute watching them navigate their fresh new married life, and just a hoot. And there's he's super smart, and she's got a secret, but it's never revealed in the anime as to what her secret is. Just kind of sort of mentions it, but not really much there. The manga definitely calls it out a lot more. One of the things that I also really like about the anime is the opening song is really really good. It starts off very quiet and simple with a single string instrument, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the Japanese string guitar. There's a name for it, but it's I didn't write it down, so it's not coming to mind. It starts off with that, and then about 40 seconds in, it gets faster and faster, and more instruments kick in, and then it gets a good techno beat, and it's the fastest song I've heard somebody articulate and actually sing clearly enough that if I understood Japanese, I could understand it, but I don't. But it's all there. It's a fun opening, and I have these linked in the description, so you can kind of peruse them later. And there's a ton of really good stuff out there. Again, Sturgeon's Law, 90% of anything is crud. It's finding those rare, really nice bits that is so very enjoyable. And I still need to go a little bit further around. All right, so I've been just bumping in with the stone here, and pretty much just kind of tracing around. Sometimes this looks a little boring from the outside, where I'll find some of these pieces and kind of add some extra bits, and just to kind of make it look a little bit better. But for right now, where I'm just wanting to fill this in, this works out. I also look for sections that are fairly long. Oh, hey, right there, where I will add an extra layer like that, just to bump it. So instead of this being a V shaped, it's a little bit more shallow. And if we zip down and kind of look at some of these things, it's not too much of a V shape. The other thing I want to do is start breaking in some pieces to define the island more, and about ready to do that. And I'll give you an idea as to how I do that, because this is something that a technique I've developed in probably the last year. So worth showing that off. So we've got this piece here that's kind of extending out. I'll extend this out a bit more. So it's kind of a flat piece like this. Maybe bump it in a little bit, kind of curve it around here to the side some, and make it a little bit fatter. There we go. Maybe have a little piece that sticks out over here as well. So this gives me another piece to, as I'm wrapping the island base around, I can wrap around here. And so you've got this little pit as it extends down here, but it's actually got a little bit more definition. So as this goes down like another layer or two, I may do another one of these spurs coming out, just to, so it's not one big solid island. There's definition from below. And again, if we come back here to the big one, there's this strip here where I initially started as a 3x3 chunk island and realized I needed another chunk's worth. So I added this on here, but that gives a little bit of a difference, that joining here. And then if we look way down here, there's a piece that sticks in here. There's a piece that comes in over here. That helps define the island. So we've got this piece coming down, and then over here we got another piece coming down. It makes it a little bit more interesting for me, and that's what I like doing. Anyway, so I need to finish up this island, and then I can start dealing with this, because I'm going to have to dig down so we can have some heated pools over here. That will be very nice. Well, I have good news and bad news. And the joke goes that the good news is there is no bad news, and the bad news is that's all the good news there is. But no, the good news is I'm releasing this video. It's going out on a Saturday, which is my normal, second part of the week release. The bad news is this should have gone on Tuesday, which is my first release of the week. And it got completely blocked. What happened is the day before, on Monday, I had a Windows update that had been nagging me for a while, and I looked at my computer. I said, yeah, it needs a reboot. So I started the Windows updating thing and came back, and my screen was sitting at the motherboard initial screen, and it had just a little spinny, and it didn't load. And I said, well, poop, this is not good. Let me leave that overnight in case something's going on, because it was late. And I said, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to go to bed. And so, nope, it was still spinning in the morning. I pinged my patrons and let them know that, this was going on. And I got some great suggestions back from them. And one of them was to check a loading option in the BIOS, because I was sure the bootloader for my C drive was toast, because I manually went in and said, load from the C drive, and it said, it's not bootable. And I was going, oh, well, crap, because earlier I'd lost my D drive, which holds all my programs. And, I lost a little bit of old Minecraft builds and stuff like that it would be nice to be able to go take a look at, but not a big deal. Losing the C drive means all my programs have to be reinstalled, and a lot of the stuff where it knows me and my logins and stuff like that it saved, I'd have to redo. And I'm not sure if I know all of those because some of them are like 8 years old. But, emails, so you can recover that should all work. But comment was made by one of my patrons that was, check the BIOS, the boot setup may be wrong in there. And yeah, I took a look, and sure enough, there was something that had two values, I think, that had changed. So I swapped them to enable it to boot up, and it did, which made me super, super, super happy, because I had a whole bunch of other things, the non-Minecraft things that needed to be done. And so I was able to do them a day late, and it was not so great, but So anyway, so what that means is here it is Friday, uh, just a little bit before I'm going to bed, and I need to get this rendered, and I would love to do all the rest of the stuff for the hot springs in the back, and there just isn't any time. There's not been any time this week. Just been busy with so many things, and I want to get this released. I don't want to slip it anymore. So I'm going to release this, and I'll work on over the weekend the hot springs in the back, if time will allow. Real life. It's just not nearly as fun as Minecraft because I can actually accomplish stuff here in Minecraft if I have the time. Anyway, definitely enjoying this onsen. I check the description. I've got a link to the guys. I like his setup. I'm just going slightly different with the cherry, little cherry accents, but mostly the mangrove just to fit in with my setup, and mostly leaving it alone. But it's a fun thing. I'm learning some techniques. I really like the walls with the trapdoors. I think that's a cool idea. I should do that more. I've done it a couple times in places past, but the more I'm looking at this, I'm going, yeah, I kind of like that. I like that a lot. And I love how this void world is very bright. So I don't have to worry about, I've got lanterns kicked around, because that helps. I like building with stuff with lanterns and lights, but there this would be much darker, and I like being able to see, and I like being able to let you see. So I do like the void world for that. Anyway, I need to finish this and hand this off to editing Grok, who is probably going to send me a stern email about talking about a whole bunch of different anime stuff without actually supplying him thumbnails or images and stuff to use in editing. So he's going to have to go do that. Sounds like a problem for him. That's the way it goes. Anyway, this has been Grok the DuckFarmer here, playing Factory in the Sky 4 on the FTOG server. Sort of. Real life has just reared its ugly head and kicked me in the butt twice, 3 times, saying, nope, nope, you're going to have to do other things, and leave the game playing to smaller times when things are working well, which they are. And thanks for watching. Bye.